My name is Sierra. I'm years old. And the day my father decided to celebrate throwing me out of his house, he did it like he was unveiling a grand opening. I pulled into the gravel driveway to grab my last banker's box of files and saw a giant vinyl banner stretched across the front porch. In bold, red block letters, it read, "Goodbye, freeloader. Don't come back." The barbecue grill was smoking. Country music was blasting from the outdoor speakers, and the neighbors and a few of his subcontractors were laughing like this was some kind of block holiday. From the patio, a drunk voice shouted, "A 30-year-old woman with no real career should be ashamed for living off her parents." Another voice chimed in, "Lucky Harrison. Finally getting rid of the dead weight." Thud! A charred burger patty hit the side of my car window. Someone screamed, "There's your last free meal. Loser!" Even the kids were pointing and snickering. I stood there, my keys digging so deep into my palm it drew blood. The funniest part? Nobody there thought they were being cruel. That was the narrative my family had spun so often they actually believed it. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I walked inside, picked up the final box from the pantry, came back out, and took one clear photo of the banner, with everyone grinning like idiots underneath it. My father saw me do it and smirked, thinking I was just taking a souvenir from the place that caved me in. I drove away without saying a single word. 2 weeks later, my phone lit up with back-to-back texts. I never thought he'd have the humility to write, "Sierra, please talk to me. Call me back. I'm begging you. Honey." Before I tell you what he said in that phone call, and what happened after I walked out, tell me what time it is where you are right now, and where you're watching this from. I want to see how far this story travels. The script my family wrote for the town was clean, simple, and deeply humiliating. The kind of story people love because it makes them feel superior. In their version, Sierra was a broken engagement under her belt, drifting through life with nothing but a miting sachet, taking up space in her dad's house while everyone else carried the load. It played beautifully at church cookouts, neighborhood driveways, and under Facebook posts where people love typing things like, "Tough love works and maybe this will make her grow up." But the truth was messier, quieter, and far more useful to their bank accounts, as long as nobody said it out loud. I had moved back into my father's place 3 years earlier, right after his residential construction and home renovation business, Harrison Contracting, started bleeding cash. The company used to do decent business doing kitchen remodels, deck installations, and high-end cabinetry around the suburbs. Then material costs skyrocketed, 2 major commercial clients defaulted on payments, and a major historical renovation project got held up over environmental permit violations. In a flash, the business that looked rock-solid from the outside was surviving week to week on fumes and bluffing. And my father, whenever things got ugly, did what he always did. He got louder. He blamed lazy Gen Z workers, greedy clients, the economy, government regulations, and eventually, me, never himself. The part he conveniently left out when talking to our relatives was that I was the only reason Harrison Contracting hadn't filed for Chapter remote bankruptcy 2 years ago. I didn't have the kind of job my family respected, a job that came with steel-toed boots, high-vis vests, or visible physical exhaustion at the dinner table. I worked remotely as a freelance operation consultant and bid coordinator. I helped regional suppliers and small independent contractors organize federal vendor packets, clean up complex commercial proposals, track strict compliance deadlines, and rewrite their service scopes so they wouldn't get rejected by municipal boards. It paid incredibly well because most blue-collar business owners hated paperwork, and most of them were terrible at it. I was good at systems, deadlines, and spotting disasters before they hit. That made me highly valuable to strangers, and completely invisible to my own family. At first, helping my father was just temporary. That was the lie I told myself. The first month, I just audited his messy invoice. The second month, I caught a missed EPA permit renewal that would have shut his active job sites down. Then I realized he wasn't filing his state payroll taxes correctly. Then I found heavy equipment leases set to auto-renew at predatory interest rates. Then I realized half his accounts receivable were pure fantasy because he never followed up on delinquent clients. and his previous bookkeeper had walked out without leaving a single clean sheet. Every time I patched one hole, two more opened up like dry rot under drywall. My father never introduced me to clients as the brains keeping his business alive. He'd say, "Oh, this is my daughter Sierra. She's just hanging around home figuring things out right now." When an angry developer called at Chin PM and I saved a $50, Kong contract from imploding. He acted like I had done something cute by accident. When I negotiated payment extensions with lumber yards so they wouldn't put his accounts on hold, he told my uncle, "She mostly just answers emails for me." When I quietly covered his crew's weekly payroll out of my own savings because he would rather die than admit he couldn't pay his carpenters, he called it a temporary float. Later, he'd laugh it off at dinner. Families don't keep score. Kiddo. Families don't keep score. Remember that line. Because families like mine only say that when they are the ones benefiting from the silence. I wasn't just buying groceries. I paid for his Procore software subscriptions, paid the overdue electricity bills for his main workshop, paid the insurance reinstatement fees on his dump truck, and wired emergency deposits for materials when he forgot to order them, just so his active projects wouldn't get slapped with delay penalties. I never paid it all at once. I just covered the shortfalls, the exact amount needed to keep the machine from screaming loud enough for outsiders to notice. My father hated seeing me work from the kitchen table. To him, if he couldn't see sweat, the labor didn't count. He'd walk past me and mutter, "Must be nice," staring at a screen all day, while I was on a high-stakes call preventing a contract cancellation. He'd mock my computer hobby at dinner, then knock on my door an hour later asking me to rewrite a legal response to a client because the city inspectors are using too many big words and they sound pissed. He treated my competence like a household appliance. Useful when needed, embarrassing to acknowledge. The rest of the family followed his lead. In toxic systems, contempt rolls downhill from whoever owns the loudest voice. My younger sister, Kelsey, learned early that mocking my lifestyle earned her points with Dad. My Uncle Dean, a failed contractor himself who bounced between driving my dad's trucks and heavy weekend drinking, constantly lectured me on real hard work. My grandmother wrapped every cruel remark in scripture and concern for my future. It didn't need a script. Everyone just knew their cue. What changed wasn't their opinion of me. What changed was that my father started talking about selling the main estate to downsize, and I realized he actually believed his own myth. He truly believed he was carrying me. He thought because I didn't send him formal invoices, years of professional labor and thousands of dollars in emergency bailouts amounted to nothing. He truly believed that if I left, the only thing he'd lose was the inconvenience of seeing me in the house. Then, one Friday night, I overheard him out by the fire pit talking to Uncle Dean and a neighbor. He said, "I'm thinking of giving Sierra Chinwe days to pack up. Maybe hitting rock bottom will finally force her to get a real job and grow up." They laughed. Kelsey laughed, too. That was the exact moment the hurt died, and a cold, clear logic took over. I didn't confront him. I started documenting. People think revenge is born out of rage. Mine was born out of spreadsheets. Rage in toxic families gets rewritten instantly. If you cry, you re-hysterical. If you raise your voice, you re-disrespectful. Evidence is the only language my father couldn't interrupt. I built a meticulous timeline going back balmy month. Every single dime I pumped into Harrison Contracting went into a secure digital drive. Every rush lumber order, every software renewal, every emergency permit fee I paid Chuktuyen via my corporate credit card, every fuel card transfer, every invoice I corrected before a client sued him, every commercial bid packet I assembled under my own consultant license because he missed the deadline and begged me to rescue it. Every text where he said, "Can you just handle this one thing for me?" Every voicemail from Uncle Dean asking if I could wire Dola 400 so the local yard wouldn't impound the truck before Monday. Every from Kelsey begging for rent money because Dad said cash flow is weird this month. I'll pay you back when my brand deal clears. Which, of course, it never did. When the final tally hit the screen, I had to lean back in my chair. It wasn't just a high number. It was grotesque. Direct business support alone had crossed Dola 55. Comb. Personal loans and household bills pushed it well past Dola 80. Comb. And the unpaid administrative labor? Millions couldn't buy back the sleep I lost fixing their messes. I printed 2 copies of the entire Bami Mot page packet. Right around that time, I received a long-term corporate contract offer from a regular client based out of Seattle, Washington. It wasn't just a stable gig. It paid enough for me to lease a beautiful apartment overlooking the Sound and leave this toxic circle behind. I signed the lease, paid the deposit, and told absolutely no one. I rented a small public storage unit near the interstate and started moving my life out in duffel bags so small nobody noticed. Winter coats 1 week, books the next. My expensive dual monitor setup that my father assumed had appeared by magic. If that sounds cold, it was. When every boundary is treated as a declaration of war, secrecy becomes your only oxygen. My father beat me to the formal eviction speech by about 6 days. He cornered me in the kitchen on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing a supplier compliance packet and told me I needed to be out by the end of the month. He used that smug, self-righteous tone people use when they expect applause for being cruel. He said he was doing this because he loved me enough to stop enabling me, that no good man would ever respect a woman who still lived with her dad at Bamoy, and that he was embarrassed when clients saw my car parked in the driveway during work hours. I asked him one question: do you want me gone, or do you want an audience when I leave? He smirked. Maybe both. That should have been the moment I dropped the bomb. It would have been satisfying for Murray seconds. But my father can survive facts in private. He did reframe them. Call me a liar. And by Sunday lunch, the family story would be that crazy Sierra tried to blackmail him when he lovingly tried to push her out of the nest. No. If the truth was going to land, it needed consequences. He gave me until Saturday. I nodded like a defeated child. But by Thursday night, everything valuable was already in Seattle. On Friday night, I quietly unlinked my cards from his accounts, shut off the automatic payment tokens on his workshop utilities, and forwarded 2 overdue invoice drafts to his most difficult clients exactly as he had dictated them, without softening his aggressive, unprofessional language or fixing his typos. You'd be amazed how quickly a client's respect evaporates when they hear their contractor's raw, unfiltered voice without an operations manager translating it into professional English. On Saturday afternoon, I drove back for that last box and walked straight into the backyard cookout from hell. The giant vinyl banner hanging from the porch felt like a badge of honor. Uncle Dean was sweating through his flannel shirt, swinging a Bud Light like a sermon. Kelsey was near the grill in full makeup, recording clips for TikTok because public humiliation is great content if you edit it with the right trending audio. My grandmother sat under the patio umbrella with that tight, pinched expression she uses when cruelty is being performed in the name of righteousness. My father wore an apron that said "The Grill Master," looking like the universe had personally validated him. Look who finally came to claim her junk, he yelled, spreading his arms. The neighbor women laughed. I walked past them, grabbed my box, and found their starter kit inside, a pack of instant ramen, trash bags, and a printed list of low-income studio apartments near the industrial district. When I came back out, Uncle Dean shouted that my late mother would be ashamed of what I'd become. She has been gone 10 years. He knew exactly where to twist the knife. Kelsey threw the burnt patty. The crowd cheered, and my father stood there smiling. I put the box in pulled out my phone, and took the photo. My father shouted, "What? Collecting evidence for your therapist?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "No, for later." Then I drove away. The first 3 days, nobody called. Entitlement mistakes absence for surrender. Right up until the gears grind to a halt. The first crack showed on Monday afternoon. A municipal developer rejected his Phase High inspection packet because the general liability insurance certificate attached to the file had expired. Normally, I would have flagged it a week ago, called the broker, forced a same-day update, and resubmitted it before anyone panicked. This time, the notification sat dead in his inbox until the developer emailed him directly with the words, "Final notice before contract termination and delay penalties." He called me once. I let it go to voicemail. On Tuesday, his Procore drafting and scheduling software got locked out because my backup card was removed and his primary card declined. All his active blueprints, crew schedules, And material specs went completely dark. Uncle Dean called 3 times. No voicemail. Kelsey texted. Dad says stop being dramatic and give him the login. Wednesday morning. The electric company flagged his workshop for immediate disconnect. He called me at Baser Muihaifut AM, using the voice he usually reserves for bankers and inspectors. Sierra, sweetheart, call me back. There's some confusion with the workshop utility account. I think your card was still linked or something. Let's get it straightened out. Confusion? I almost admired the audacity. By Thursday, the tone shifted to sheer panic. Uncle Dean left a long, rambling voicemail, completely sober for once. He said he didn't mean anything at the cookout. It was just a joke. And Sierra, please, I need you to wire Dola 500 for the truck payment or the bank is going to repossess it tomorrow. We are all going to lose our livelihoods. We're a family! We're a family! The magic words. Friday was when the dam broke. Kelsey called me sobbing. She didn't care about the business, but her personal comfort was now threatened. She said Dad was throwing tools at the shung, Uncle Dean was screaming at everyone, and Grandma was praying on the kitchen floor. She needed Dola 700 immediately because her hours at the local boutique got cut. She couldn't pay her rent. Dad had promised to help her, but now his business account was frozen. And Chioi, please don't make a big deal out of this. Don't make a big deal. The motto of my entire life. Don't make a big deal when Dean made inappropriate comments about my body. Don't make a big deal when Dad took over my space. Don't make a big deal when Kelsey stole my money. My pain was always a minor inconvenience. Their behavior was just stress. I asked her, do you know why Dad can't give you the money? She huffed. No. He just keeps saying cash flow is weird. Cash flow is weird. I repeated and laughed out loud. That evening she texted me back, furious, accusing me of sabotaging the family over a bruised ego. Dad had every right to kick you out. Normal adults pay rent. I sent her one screenshot. Just a cropped view of my master spreadsheet showing months of direct lines with her name, Dad's commercial software bills, and the workshop power bill paid out of my personal account. I texted, since you're an expert on adult contributions. She didn't reply for 2 hours. Then sent, what is this? I replied, a free sample. By Saturday morning, my father had called 6 times before noon. By the 6th voicemail, the swagger was gone, the anger was dead, and all that remained was raw panic. Sierra, please call me back. I'm asking as your father. We need to clarify exactly what you've been paying and what you turned off. Dean says the lumber account is locked, the power is pending cutoff, and the bank is flagging the trucks. If this is a lesson you're trying to teach me, okay. Lesson learned. Just call me. Lesson learned. How managerial. Not an apology. Just a boss realizing his hidden infrastructure had feelings. That Monday, I met him and Uncle Dean at a diner off the interstate, a place where truck drivers eat and nobody gives a damn if a middle-aged man looks like he hasn't slept in a week. His Ford F-Magnum was parked completely crooked in the lot, like he had pulled in too fast. Dean was sitting right next to him. Because men like my uncle only believe a woman is serious when another man is there to absorb the blow. I placed the Bamimot page packet on the table. He looked at it like the paper had insulted him. What is this? The difference between your story and mine, I said. He opened it expecting nonsense. That confidence lasted exactly 10 seconds. His eyes hit the total at the bottom of page 1, and his face drained of color. Uncle Dean leaned over, read the line, and muttered a curse under his breath. The data was bulletproof. Balmy months of direct injections, software licenses, emergency material orders, commercial tax rectifications, and a conservative estimate of my management consulting hours. At the very back was a glossy 8x10 print of the cookout banner. My father flipped a page violently. This is ridiculous. You're inflating everything. This Procore subscription wasn't for me. It was for the office. Exactly. I said. Your office. Your business. He pointed to another line. These fuel payments were temporary loans. 3 years of loans. I countered. And every single one was after you told me payroll was fine. Dean tried to play the nice guy. Sierra, honey, I was drunk at the party. I didn't mean any of that. I turned to him. You didn't apologize when you woke up sober on Sunday. You apologized when your truck software got locked out. My father lunged for his final sanctuary. Families help each other. That doesn't mean you get to act like a debt collector. How interesting. I smiled. When I lived under your roof, you called it freeloading. But when you lived off my money, it suddenly became family. He hissed. Don't do this here. You mean with witnesses? You taught me that, Dad. He tried to argue that his roof wiped out any debt I was owed. I looked him dead in the eye. If I had paid market rent to a stranger and kept my cash away from your business, you would have lost your workshop 18 months ago. If I had billed you like a corporate client for every contract I saved, you'd be bankrupt. The only reason you got to call me a freeloader is because I loved you quietly. He flipped to the very last page and saw the photo of his own smug face under the banner. You took this for leverage, he whispered. No. I took it because I knew you'd pretend it wasn't that bad. Dean buried his face in his hands. So what now? What do you want? Nothing.
I stood up and slung my purse over my shoulder.
That's the part you still don't get. I've already checked out. I'm done. My father's jaw tightened. You can just walk away and let everything collapse over a grudge. I didn't leave over a grudge, Dad. I left because your disrespect finally started costing more than my loyalty. I told him exactly what was salvageable and what was dead. Gave him a second envelope containing a list of local bookkeeping services, a corporate debt consolidation firm, and a bankruptcy attorney, and walked out into the Seattle rain. When you pull the core support column out of a toxic family, the collapse comes in installments. Grandma called to tell me everyone was at fault. The classic family code for forcing the victim to split the blame with the abuser. She tried to use my mother's memory to break me. Your mother would hate this division. No. Grandma, I replied coldly. Mom would hate that her daughter was publicly humiliated by the very people who were living off her sweat. That shut her up for good. Kelsey eventually visited me in Seattle. The high-maintenance lifestyle influencer facade was gone. She admitted the business was in shambles. Dad had to liquidate half his heavy equipment. Dean had walked out after a screaming match. And Dad spends his days drinking and muttering about how I ruined him. I didn't ruin him. Kelsey, I told her. I just stopped protecting him from the reality of what he built. Harrison Contracting went under by the end of the year. The family home was sold at a loss to a developer. Public county records are brutally neat like that. Sometimes closure doesn't look like a dramatic speech. It looks like a government trangweb confirming that the property where you learned to stay silent now belongs to strangers. Seattle suited me. My consulting firm grew. I secured high-end corporate clients with upfront retainers, and I bought a used Subaru in cash. I learned what a peaceful dinner felt like when nobody was manufacturing a crisis in the next room. 5 months ago, my father called from an unknown number. He immediately blurted out that he wasn't calling for money. He said he found an old recipe card of my mother's while packing his remaining boxes, and thought I might want it. It was the first thing he had offered me in years that didn't come wrapped around a demand. You can mail it to my P.O. box, I said. There was a heavy pause over the line. Then he asked quietly, Did you really think I was that cruel, Sierra? I could have given him 100 bitter answers. Instead, I just said, You hung it over the porch. Dad. He exhaled, and the line went dead. The card arrived 4 days later. Chicken pot pie, written in my mother's neat cursive. At the very bottom, she had scribbled a note. Leave it in the oven 5 minutes longer if Richard starts complaining. I laughed so hard I cried, and I framed it on my kitchen wall. People still ask if I regret not stepping in one last time. It sounds like a kind question, but it's just the same old trap, assuming the most moral person in the story is the one who accepts the abuse again. I don't believe that anymore. If someone only calls you family when they need your labor, your cash, or your silence, they aren't protecting a relationship. They are protecting a system.
My father's greatest mistake wasn't throwing that party.
It was believing that the person he humiliated would still keep the lights on after the music stopped. I still have the photo. The smoke from the grill, Uncle Dean with his beer, Kelsey mid-law, my father in his ridiculous apron. All of them completely certain they were documenting my rock bottom. What they actually captured was the exact final second before their safety net got into her car, turned the key, and drove away.